Hey folks, it's time for the quote of the day, and today's quote of the day is one that I look forward to literally every year. There are hundreds of quotes I could use by this man. It's really like this is the Super Bowl of quoting people because today is the birthday of one John Ronald Reuel Tolkien. J.R.R. Tolkien was born today. Now, what's funny because yesterday was Isaac Asimov's birthday, and I quoted Asimov, and it's weird that you have someone who was literally like a pillar of science fiction, like one of the most important science fiction writers, if not one of the most important writers of all time, in his genre and in many genres. The man wrote over 500 books, and then you followed up with a man who didn't write 500 books. He actually didn't write a lot of books, but what he wrote, the content of what he wrote, how much he put into it, the world building that he was involved in, the what he did with Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit is create a genre in a way that nothing had ever. There were fantasy books before J.R.R. Tolkien, but he is known as the father of fantasy because nobody had ever done what he did. He didn't just write a story. He built an entire mythology. He built an entire world, and there's he in letters that he wrote. It's very clear that his intention from the very start was to build a world that was so full of the flora and fauna and creatures and so on and so forth that people could literally write their own stories in his world. That was his intention, was to create such a in-depth, beautiful world that people could play in it in their imagination. That's what he wanted, and he was tremendously successful at a level that I don't really know if anybody has ever really done that. There are people out there that would say that there have been novels or series since then. Harry Potter springs to mind, but that is not even close. Like they're not even close. When I think of J.R.R. Tolkien, when I think of The Hobbit, especially, I think of an interaction that I had. I don't know. It was probably 15 years ago, and I've had this in my head since then. It's a recurring thought or a remembrance that I have of a moment. I don't remember the guy's name, but it was a guy that it was like a friend of a friend basically, and we were talking, and it's just he knew that I had played D&D, and I was I had a bit of a role player, and that I liked fantasy and stuff like that, and so we were talking about the movies, the Lord of the Rings movies, and I was talking, giving him like every fucking Lord of the Rings nerd, I was giving him all of the oh, did you know this, or oh, did you know that, and I remember having that conversation, and he's like, "Oh, I've never read those books. I don't really. Is it close to that?" And I was like, "Well, there's a lot of stuff that's left out, and there's this and that." And so, fast forward like 2 weeks later, I run into the guy again. We're at something meeting together, um, and he had talked about how he had picked up The Hobbit. He had went out and he had bought it because he wanted to start from the beginning, and he wanted to. And this dude, I think he was, at the time, he was like 31 or 32 years old, and he he comes to me and he says, I don't know how you read that. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, it's hard to read. And I was like, well, the language is different. He's like, no, it's like I don't understand the words. I don't understand what he's trying to say. He's like, I've tried to read the first two chapters and I can't get through it. And I was like, oh, hmm. That when that book was released, it was a children's book, right? Like literally, it was for children. Like children read that. It was the same as like a Dr. Seuss book is for us today. The children read that book, and now you can't, as a 32-year-old man, you can't read it. That's, I mean, and this wasn't a shot or me taking a shot at the guy or an attempt to shame him. It was this stunning realization just how far we had fallen in our ability to, I mean, really honestly read and intellectualize and imagine, and just how our education system had failed people, because when those books came out, when The Hobbit came out, it was for children. It was a children's book. He wrote it for children. That was the intention behind it. And now when people pick up that book, they're like, "Oh, I don't oh, there's big words in here. I don't know what that means." And adults today have a hard time reading The Hobbit, a book that captured the imagination of literally generation upon generation upon generation, and yet many adults today can't read it. And that to me was just a stunning realization. I mean, especially back then. Now I've kind of come to terms with it, but it was a stunning realization that, this is how far we've fallen intellectually. This is like the problem with our education system. This is a problem with what we were doing. And ever since then, I've kind of, I mean, I am the person I am today because of it, because I've realized that there is a push to try to make us dumber and dumber and dumber, and it's worked. Our society is dumb as fuck, and you needn't look any further than the inability of many people to read a children's book. And with that in mind, I know that's a bit of an aside, but today is January 3rd, and overnight we started a war with Venezuela. And so I had I had probably 15 different quotes that I had picked out for today, being as I could quote, I could basically recite, if not the books, I could definitely recite the movies. And there's a million quotes, but unfortunately, there's one that I always come back to, and it really, like, I always come back to it because if you see me in one of my lives, you'll see there's a little sign over my shoulder, and that sign has this quote in it. And it's a quote that, as somebody who people call Gandalf, I take to heart every single day. And I'm going to give you a little bit of, I mean, I'll put the whole thing on the little quote card that I do. Um, but I want to make it clear, this is a scene in the movie and in the book. This is pulled directly from the book. And there's a part where Frodo is talking to Gandalf, and he says, "I wish it need not have happened in my time." That's what Frodo says. And Gandalf turns to him, and this is the quote: "So do I, and so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us." We are in dark, dark times right now, in real life, in reality. We are a country at war. We have inequalities everywhere we look. We have attacks on women. We have attacks everywhere around us. We are living in the world. I know that's not fantasy and there's not orcs and things like that. I understand that. There's not urukai, and while the great eye isn't menacing in the same way, you can't ever discount the fact that our government is essentially a giant eye that is always watching, that is always aware. And we've signed away our ability for privacy. We've signed away our rights. Every time we get online, every time we use our phones, every time we do anything, we're signing away our ability. So there really is a great eye that is watching you. It just so happens that now that great eye is also tethered to a bright orange asshole. And while that is not anywhere near as, intimidating as the flaming eye of Sauron, it is nonetheless just as devastating and just as terrifying if you really think about it. We are in that time now, folks. And while all of us echo the sentiment of Frodo in that scene, in that moment, where we wish that we didn't have to see it, where we didn't have to live through it, Gandalf is right. So do all. So do all who live to see such times. But that is not for us to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us. And that sentiment, like I said, hangs above my shoulder. It hangs above where I sleep. I think about it every damn day. What do I do with the time that has been given to me? This is what I've decided to do. Speak out. Say something. Try to inspire somebody. And I do that because of J.R.R. Tolkien. Happy birthday, Professor. The rest of you, take care of yourself. Take care of others. I'll talk to you soon.